Hello everyone and welcome to Game 2 in this series. Game 2 between Melancholy and Rhythm, a Protoss versus Protoss mirror match. And so far, if Game 1 is any indicator, this is not going to be your typical Protoss versus Protoss mirror match at all. Let's go ahead and get into the game. Melancholy spawning as the purple Protoss player here on the top right-hand side of the map at what I'll call the 2 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Rhythm spawning at the 4.5 position here as the blue Protoss. So Protoss versus Protoss once more. And we'll see if Rhythm will be forced to play a little bit more straight up. The reason why I say that is this is Rhthm Alter, and it is not, oh, what is this, a double probe scout? All right, no, wait, triple probe scout. What is this going on? And this may be the same exact strategy as we saw in the previous game. I was going to say that it could be perhaps a little bit more of a straight matchup because you don't know where your opponent is, and you have to scout in order to find, and if you scout in the wrong direction, that forge first doesn't really work out. How do you counter that? By scouting with 3 probes early on. Rhythm going to quickly find his opponent here, and now the probe is going to come inside, catch the side of the probe, and did Melancholy spot this? That is the key question. Melancholy currently doesn't see the probe off in the corner in the back of the base. Most likely a pylon will be warped in here. No, what is going on? Pylon may be warped straight up in the back behind a tree. As the probes are all going to scout, you can see all 3 probes making their way over, and Rhythm simply just waiting, lying in wait, waiting to spring that trap. So it will be another cannon rush here on Rhthm Alter, something that I definitely did not expect. Melancholy currently still does not know about the pylon that is warping in the backside of the base here, and Rhythm really living up to his standard antics. We can see Rhythm does have a probe off over here. This one probe from Melancholy not going to find his opponent anytime soon. And what is going down? Oh, Melancholy does spot this. Probes now making their way over. And what is Rhythm doing? Rhythm is dancing with this one probe and unable to set it up at all. Bad news, as Rhythm with this one proxy pylon may actually deal a lot of economic damage, as a second proxy pylon now coming in on the south side. So Melancholy, knowing after game 1, doesn't want a repeat of game 2. Probes are attempting to take down this pylon here. It will get cleaned up, and Rhythm sitting on 18 probes compared to Melancholy's 17. But if you take a look at the income is actually higher for Rhythm. The reason behind that is 3 probes are currently not mining at all, but there was some units lost here. Rhythm really knows his calculations. He knows that by forcing workers to come off the mineral line, there is a cost associated with that. And that cost is about, I would say, about 100 to 150 resources. So if you take a look at the loss column, it deceptively shows that Rhythm has lost more, but I believe in the income or in the overall spending, Rhythm has actually spent more, and he also has he's also even on probes. Photon cannons now being added, cybernetics core pylon coming in as well. We'll see what's going to happen here as a zealot and a probe going to perhaps try to charge in on the front door. A zealot now being added as well, a pylon here. The photon cannon gonna deal 1 pop shot to that zealot, so there are going to be 2 zealots. If we add in a stalker into this, that may just be enough to deal enough damage to this photon cannon, except for the fact that the photon cannon deals straight 20 damage even to a zealot, as it is a base damage attack as opposed to a bonus damage versus armored. Now we'll see what's gonna follow up. Melancholy going into a Twilight Council, perhaps going to be using blink stalkers. A second photon cannon now being added on the front door, as Rhythm creating a rather unique Sim City inside his base. I'm not quite sure what to make of this. You can take a look at the harvester count, 25 versus 25. Both sides are pretty even so far, but the tech advantage, I believe, really belongs to Melancholy now, as he does have his Twilight Council and he is going into blink. He is getting another pylon here. I perhaps thought this could be a dark shrine. It is in fact not, and we may have blink stalkers with observers and come inside. There is no way to connect these 2 bases here, so a bit of an issue that you cannot blink across this chasm, blink down and then blink up. as we are going to see another gateway established here. So this is a little bit of a walkway where the Zealots will not be able to get in easily. This one pylon, however, an Artosis pylon, powering 3 photon cannons. 400 hit points to take down 3 photon cannons. Always a very nice trade, especially if the Stalkers can blink in order to take it down rather quickly. Sentries and Zealots are off over here. We are getting into that Warp Gate tech. No weapons upgrade at all. We are going into 2 additional gateways, and Melancholy has yet to train anything off of this robotics facility. He needs to train up an observer if he plans to utilize it. There is going to be a proxy pylon here, so this looks like this side, this west side, looks like it will be the point of entry, and then Rhthm will just have to deal with a rather large Stalker army inside his base. I really don't like the delay of this one observer. The observer could have been out into the field much earlier. The Stalkers now need to make a move and actually push out, get into position over here. Stalkers could be warping in over here as well. Not quite sure whether or not. You can see that Melancholy already holds the Xel'Naga towers, has a definitive advantage, knowing when units will be pushing out. There is one observer, and the photon cannon was about to spot this here, and the observer now needs to be very careful. Perhaps the observer needs to back around and park itself here on the high ground, as we now see the Stalkers and the Sentries make a move out in the midfield. Stalkers do have blink here. There's another observer. The observer is trying to keep track of all of these units. Sentries are nearby. One Zealot trading its life for damage on the shields of a Stalker. Not the best play at all. Melancholy now perhaps waiting for additional resources and in order to warp in more units, as we are now going into hallucination. So Rhthm perhaps trying to fake out his opponent. If he goes for Colossi or anything of that nature, perhaps Immortals, those Immortals would be a rather large target for Melancholy to try and attack. Melancholy, however, does have an observer nearby, and with that observer will most likely know that those are hallucinations, unless he actually with the observer he can actually detect which are hallucinations, which are not. In come the force fields there, doing a nice bit of blinking back and forth as the observers blink forward, and here's the engagement again. Stalkers are getting taken down. Melancholy having a slight advantage. Rhthm taking a lot more damage than he should be. Units are trying to back away. Melancholy also reinforcing over here, as Melancholy does have a high ground pylon. Both sides are engaging, but a nice concave against Rhthm, and now Rhthm trying to push forward. The hallucination not even coming to play at all, as there are observers, and both sides are exchanging. Melancholy, however, not utilizing his blink Stalkers nearly as well as I would have hoped for, and both sides are fairly even. 1250 versus 1150. The unit count pretty much neck and neck, except for that Rhthm has more Stalkers because he doesn't have any observers. We'll see what's going to happen here. Melancholy may try to clean up more of these units here. There are still observers out and about. There's one proxy pylon still set up back over here, but it's not going to be able to warp in any units up onto the high ground anytime soon. And Rhthm now takes the supply lead. Harvester count fairly even, 29-28, and Melancholy perhaps going to try and engage, but that is going to be a very difficult location, as one sentry does get picked off rather easily. More units now coming over to reinforce. Blink Stalkers versus non-Blink Stalkers. You normally know who is the victor in this battle. Stalkers are now trying to engage. Nice blink back by Melancholy, making sure that the lower hit point Stalkers are not actually taking any serious damage whatsoever. The lower hit point Stalkers are still peeling back, and I believe Melancholy is gonna just win there, and there is the GG. So Rhthm losing game 2 in this series. Stay tuned for game 3.